Okay, our next speaker, he's a master herbalist. George Lamoreux is the founder of Jing Herbs. George has been a tonic and clinical herbalist for 2 decades. He holds a master's degree in traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture from the prestigious Yosan University and holds certification from the National Certification Committee for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. George studied under the well-known Taoist masters Doxing and Moxing Ni. During his studies with the Ni brothers, he was the recipient of many of the Ni family traditions handed down in an unbroken line for 38 generations. Please help me welcome George to the stage, where he will be talking about transforming life with tonic herbs.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. It's really an honor to be here. I was really taken by the name of this conference, Take Back Your Health, because it was something that really resonated with me personally, because that's exactly what I had to do in my own life. So I just want to give you a little introduction to how it is that I'm standing up here today on this stage in front of you. And it was sort of a long and winding transformation that occurred in my life. And this is really true because this is what happened to me. Tonic herbs actually did transform my life on a very, very elemental level. Okay, and this is where I started out. Are any of you in the financial industry here? You are, okay. So you probably know that Wall Street is sort of a world unto itself with its own kind of ethos and character, not necessarily centered on health. And this is what I did. How many of you have seen the movie Trading Places okay, you remember that movie? Okay. So the scene where those crazy guys are in the pit and they're screaming their heads off and one of them falls over and gets carried out. So that's what I did for about 10 years. And that scene was real. That was real. And I actually did experience people falling out in the pit and being carried out. That's how stressful that job is. And one of the things, like I was 20 years old in the 70s, okay? So, if any of you grew up in the 70s, you knew what kind of, thing was going on culturally, okay? So the mantra was, live fast, die young, and leave a good-looking corpse. And I really bought into that, okay? So I probably did everything that I could to make sure that that happened. But there's something about the human spirit that will show up at times like that. And I was in a very bad place. And although I had all the trappings, I had the wealth, I had a house in the Hamptons, I had limousines taking me to work in the morning, and I had all of that. But inside, I was circling the drain. Okay, I didn't know how to get out of that hole. And this is where my compass was most of the time. I lived on stress 24 hours a day. After a crazy day at work, I continued my crazy lifestyle at night. And so I was literally using up my life force, and we'll get into that a little bit later, of how that works. All right, but I was really in a lot of stress and a lot of pain. Emotionally, spiritually, I was in a lot of pain, although it didn't look that way. But looks can really be deceiving. That's what I felt like. You've heard the word, like adrenal fatigue, adrenal burnout. Okay, that's exactly where I was. So it came to this. And sometimes that is a pretty good, representation of what a decision has to be sometimes, because decisions can be very, very difficult when you know that you can't stay in the place that you're in, but you don't quite know what to do. So I was like this all the time. So finally, I thought, okay, I need to extricate myself from what I'm doing, and I need to move in a different direction, because I know if I stay here, I will die, literally. Not figurative, literally. So I thought to myself, okay, well, what is it that you enjoy in life? What are the things that you like to do? So I realized, well, one of the things I really enjoy is eating. So maybe I should do something along the lines of food. So I decided to be one of those. Okay, so I didn't get out of my Wall Street gigs yet. I actually enrolled in the French Culinary Institute in New York. So I became a professional chef, and specifically a pastry chef. Yeah. Okay, now, anybody in the restaurant business here and have anything to do with, kitchens or anything like that? This is not an easy job, okay? This is not stress-free. All right. I didn't realize that at the time, but it was 50% less stress than what I had before, I will say that. So what I did was, I finally managed to get out of Wall Street, and I moved to California. And I was a pastry chef then. And I was hired by that guy. Does anyone know who this is? Have you ever heard of Wolfgang Puck? Okay. So I was the head pastry chef at Wolfgang Puck's restaurant in Malibu called Granita. And when I became a pastry chef, one of the things that I really didn't grok, one of the things I really didn't understand is that it probably wasn't the best profession for me to go in, because I really didn't like sweets. I didn't like sugar. Okay? And this Wolfgang and I had this ongoing battle, because he would come into the restaurant every day, and he would always go around and test what you were doing. And I knew it came every day. He would taste and he would say, look at me and go, more sugar. This is hitting me. Okay. So that was a day-to-day thing. Now, it was during this time that one of my fellow chefs used to come into work every day, and he had with him this decoction that looked like muddy water that he would drink every single day. And one of the things that I noticed about him was that he always had an incredible amount of energy. He was never sick, and he was always in a good mood. So I thought it could possibly be that what he's drinking has something to do with what he's manifesting. So I decided to ask him if I could try this. And when I tried it, it did in fact taste like muddy water. That's really what it was. And it looked something like that, although almost not as good. But I had him bring me to the herbal store where he was getting this stuff. And the first time that I went in there and sat down, and they had an elixir bar, what they call a Tonic Bar. And they would talk to you a little bit and find out what was going on in your life, and then they would make this drink for you. So I did that, and they made a drink for me, and I was sitting there, and then all of a sudden, now, you have to understand, I mean, I was still sort of coming back from where I was, so I still had that adrenal fatigue, I didn't have a lot of energy, and I still had, for some reason, I had a huge amount of anger in my life at that time, and I'm not sure where that was from, but when I drank this, all of a sudden, I felt all of that stuff melting away, literally just melting away. And I felt a sense of peacefulness and calm that I had never experienced. I don't think I've ever experienced that in my life. And I'll talk about the herb that I actually drank that day further on. But, so right there and then, I was at another crisis point because I knew that I really didn't belong in the pastry chef business because I didn't believe in shoving sugar down people's throats. So that was, that was very incongruent. So I knew I had to do something else again. And so it was the crisis time and the decision time. So I made the decision. I decided, okay, I'm the kind of person that if I get interested in something, I have to go for it full on. I just don't dabble in it. I say, okay, this is something worth learning. This is something worth knowing about. If it has such a profound effect on me, because, I mean, believe me, the substances that I used to ingest were a lot more powerful than tonic herbs. Okay, but they never had that kind of an effect on me. They never really got to my spirit, to my core, the way that did. So that's when I enrolled at Yosan. I was really lucky. That's what I look like when I'm not on stage. Okay, I was really lucky to study with the Ni brothers, the Ni family. They are literally 38 generations in an unbroken line of Chinese physicians, and they are Taoist. Now, the herbalism that I follow and the herbalism that we practice is actually based on Taoist principles called the Three Treasures. Okay. Now, Jing, Qi, and Shen are the three treasures. Now, I think you'll probably agree with me that we are beings of energy. That's all we are. But we are energy manifesting at different states at the same time. And that's what these concepts are all about. Okay, so the first Jing. This is considered your essence, your core being, right? This is the energy that your parents pass on to you at the moment of your conception. And at that moment, the energy of heaven is drawn into you. And if you think about it, it's donated by your parents, but that energy goes back on both sides of your ancestry, right back to the beginning. All of their experiences, whatever they had in their lives, are actually encoded and are given to you at the moment of your conception. Now, Jing is an energy that is very, very dense. It is the most concentrated and the most dense energy that there is. And it basically will fire your life for your whole lifetime. It will determine your constitution. It will determine partly your genetics, your genetic makeup. It will determine if you are more prone to getting illnesses or not. So and the other thing is, Jing is, as it says here, it's pure potential. Anything that you will ever think, anything that you will ever create, or anything that you will ever be is in the Jing essence. Okay, so that is the most elemental. Now, the next is Chi. Now, a lot of people have probably heard this concept before, Chi, energy. Okay. Now, there are two types. The prenatal Chi is the Chi that is given to you during your formation as you develop in your mother's womb. This is really important because at different times during that development, and this is especially important for women during pregnancy, that it is so important for them to really take care of themselves, because the energetics that they are giving to their developing child has different times. Like when the different organ systems are developed, for instance, like for the heart. The heart, I think, is one of the first ones to develop. But there are also emotional states that go along with the physical heart, okay? And if the mother's emotional states are not stable during that time, it will also interrupt the transmission of those emotional states into the child. So it's really important for women who are pregnant to be well treated, number one, and to have as stress-free a lifestyle as they can possibly have, so that as all of these organs are developing and as all of these emotions are being established in the body, that they're done so in an uninterrupted manner. So that's the prenatal Chi. So as soon as you're born, as soon as that umbilical cord is cut, then you transition to what is known as the postnatal Chi. Now, postnatal Chi is basically the energy that is created from the food that you eat and the air that you breathe. In classical Chinese medicine, they call the spleen stomach. I don't know if any of you have ever been to acupuncture, but they're always talking about people are always spleen Qi deficient. Have you ever heard that? Okay. That's basically the spleen stomach. That's the digestive system. And also the lungs. If any of you were here this morning and heard Christine's talk, and she was talking about the breath, okay? So the combination of the energy of the lungs combining with the energy of food create the energy that your body has to live on a day-to-day basis. Now, most of us do not have ideal eating habits, nor do we have ideal lifestyle habits. A lot of us have to live in a world where there's constant stress. You have to overwork. A lot of people overeat. They don't sleep enough. All of those things will draw that energy a lot faster. Okay, so if you're not creating a sufficient amount of qi on a day-to-day basis for your body to run on, what it's going to do is it's going to go for the stored energy. It's going to start sucking up the Jing. Okay, so this is exactly what happened to me. This is exactly what I did. I gave up my health. No one took it from me. A lot of people have health issues and they don't have any control over that. But I sort of like gave it away. And so my transformation was about getting it back again. And the good news is you can get it back. I feel better now in my 60s than I did when I was in my 30s and 40s. Okay? And you can too. So, again, the postnatal chi. Okay. Then the third is Shen. Now, this coincides mostly with the spirit or the spiritual. It's the connection to the divine. It's also an outgrowth or an outpouring. If you have a sufficient amount of Jing, if you have good Jing energy and you have good Qi energy, there's going to be a natural outflowing of that energy into the spirit. Now, this is also the most refined energy in the body. This is in the realm of pure thought, has to do with the mind. Okay? The Jing has to do, sometimes people talk about kidney essence, kidney Jing, acupuncturist again, talk about that. So it's a very physical, it's a very solid kind of an energy, the Jing. It's the most dense. Then it transforms, you got the Jing transforming into the Qi. Okay? So there's always that transformational aspect going on. And then this is the final transformation to the Shen, which is the most refined. It does have to do with the heart, because in classical Chinese medicine, the heart is basically the filter or the emperor. It is the center where all things are controlled, and it has to do with certainly love and compassion, and that has to do with the connection to the divine. Luminous, because this energy I can see in people's eyes, and so can you. When you look into someone's eyes and you see that there is a divine spark, there's a divine light there, and you can see that. That is the Shen shining through. Okay? So that is basically, those are the three treasures. Now, the herbalism that we deal with, or that we practice, takes all of these things into consideration. All of these three energetics are always taken into consideration when we do any kind of analysis. We analyze on those three levels. Okay. Now, herbs, about 5,000 years ago, there was a guy by the name of Shen, and he came up with the first herbal pharmacopoeia. And he had about 1,200 different herbs that he classified into these three categories, superior, harmonizing, and inferior. Now, the inferior herbs are not inferior in and of themselves. They treat inferior states of health. They treat diseases. All right? These are herbs that are meant to be taken for a short period of time, and whenever it is that it clears, whenever it resolves whatever the disease is, they have to be discontinued, or they will actually cause harm to the body. Right? The second one, the harmonizing or the balancing herbs, these are the category of herbs that actually address just slight imbalances. When things are starting to go awry, they haven't gotten to a bad place yet, all right? But you can see that, oh, there's something happening here. We have to get this back to where it should be. That's what the harmonizing herbs are about. And again, they can be taken for a longer period of time, but again, discontinued once that disharmony has been basically, eradicated. Then we get to the tonics. These are the herbs that we deal with most of the time, although we do those other ones. The tonic herbs are the ones that we really prefer to work with because the tonic herbs are about keeping you in incredible health, preventing you from going down into an imbalance or into a disease. And when I was talking about the transformation of energy in the body from the Jing up to the Shen, okay, it works the other way around. Your thoughts can also transform into a chi, into a substantial thing in your body. And if it's a good thought, it will transfer into good things in the body. But if it's not a good thought, that chi can also transform into a negative energy in the body, which are also disease states. Now, I'm not saying that it's the only cause, but we know from dealing with people, thousands and thousands of people over the years, that mental states and thought processes absolutely can create disease states. But what we do is we want to concentrate on the superior or the tonics. Now, tonic herbs, one of the things in classical Chinese medicine, our first principle is do no harm. And tonic herbs fall into that category. Tonic herbs do no harm by themselves. I mean, anyone can take too much of a good thing, and that's a possibility too. But in general, these herbs are very, very safe. They can be taken every day. They are like superfoods. And as a matter of fact, in China, these herbs are used in their culinary tradition. They do cook dishes with most of these herbs. Okay. So I'm gonna get into some of the actual herbs. I mean, I don't have a lot of time to spend with you today because, I mean, I'm going to take a few of the herbs. We have about 125 tonic herbs in the category that we work with. I will let you know by the end of this talk how you can actually take this further if you want to. And I'll give you something that you can use right away, too, to take home with. But before I start talking about the herbs themselves, I want to tell you a story about, now, baby Lucas. Now, this is not actually baby Lucas, but I was invited to a T. Harv Eker seminar once. He invited me to be an exhibitor there. And one of his employees, by the name of Kim, had just adopted an infant by the name of Lucas. Now, Lucas was born to a mother who was addicted to cocaine, addicted to crack, addicted to alcohol, and addicted to heroin. Now, if you remember what I was talking about, how important it is during pregnancy that a woman have a very, very healthy lifestyle, because that's the Jing that she's going to be passing on to her child. So, what kind of Jing do you think Lucas inherited from his mother? Not very good. So the reason that Kim came to me, and she was desperate, because Lucas had a condition called failure to thrive, all right? He was actually refusing nutrition. He would not eat at all. And they were really desperate, and they brought Lucas to a clinic, and the clinic informed Kim and the family that Lucas would have to go there for 3 years every day to get over what they called an eating disorder. But he was in a very, very bad way. He was actually failing. He was dying. She wanted to know if there was anything that I could do. Now, this is something that happens to us a lot in tonic herbalism, is that people come to us at the last stages, rather than coming to us a lot earlier, when it would be much easier for us to intervene and to do something about it. But we get it all the time. So she wanted to know if there was anything that I could do for her. So I gave her an herb. I said, this is an herb that is known to actually address the condition that Lucas has. Give it to him and let me know what happens. I'll tell you what the herb is later. About a month passed, and I got a letter from her. And I talked about this. I was at a longevity conference, David Wolf's longevity conference, and I actually read the letter that she sent me. And within a month, Lucas had totally turned around. I mean, totally turned around. He had actually come up to his normal body weight. His mother said that not only did he eat, but he didn't want to stop eating. He wanted to eat more and more and more. And they started calling him Bam Bam because he had so much energy, he was bouncing off the walls. Okay, and this is about what Lucas looks like today. This is what age he is about today. Excuse me. So what we did was basically we gave him the Jing that his mother didn't give him. We gave him a substance that actually fired the developmental energies in his body. And I was talking about Jing. Okay, so we gave him some Jing from a different source. And Jing is also about the kidneys, the spinal column, the development of the brain, the endocrine system. So all of those things that were lacking started to work in Lucas and totally turned him around. Okay? So we'll go to the first. This is the substance that we gave him. Now, this is considered, herbs are broken down into yin and yang always, because there's a yang energy and a yin energy. Yin tends to be more of the nourishing, promotion of fluids in the body, blood, tissue, those kind of things. Okay? Yang energy is more about the actual function of the organ systems. So there's a yin and the yang of every organ also. Okay? Now, this particular herb enters the kidney and the liver meridians. So the kidney being the essence, the stored essence, that's the Jing. Right? And liver being the organ that has a lot to do with, certainly with blood and the storage of blood and the detoxification of blood. So that herb enters that. Now, this herb is all about regeneration. And deer antler, and you know, the sages, the Taoist sages, one of the things that they did was they were incredible. They observed nature, and they did that for literally thousands of years. Like for 5,000 years, they just observed, and they wrote down their observations. We actually have texts that we still use today from that long ago that were written down on scrolls in China. And one of the things that they noticed about this is like, okay, so they were observing the deer, and every spring the antlers would start growing out, and then all of a sudden they would go through a transformation and they would turn to bone, and then at the end of the year they fall off. And they did that year and year and year. So, they finally thought there's something about a regenerative power of this substance where they grow back every year. So they started using it. And what we found in some of the ingredients in deer antler, it has minerals in it. It has amino acids. It has ectosaponins. Now, ectosaponins are a substance that is very regenerative. If the lizards, when they lose their tails and they're able to grow the tail back again, or if a starfish loses one of its arms and it grows back again, that's ectosaponins. Okay. It's also been shown to have a slight regenerative power even on nerve tissue. So for people who are having those kind of problems, this is an amazing substance. It not only helps to regenerate tissue, but especially bone. And it stimulates the bone marrow to produce red blood cells. We had a nurse that came in to the store many years ago, and she was diagnosed with severe anemia, severe. If she hadn't done something about it, they were going to start transfusing her. And her mother was really concerned, so she came in. And we made her a decoction with a few other herbs, but this was the main herb that was in that decoction. And her blood levels, within a month, her blood levels went back up to normal, and they never went down again. She never had anemia again. Of course, we never saw her again after that either, but that's okay. That was a good thing. So again, it also has prostaglandins in it, which are really anti-inflammatory. So people who are having arthritic conditions, this is an amazing substance for that because it's got the anti-inflammatories in it. It also has glucosamine sulfate and chondroitin sulfate for the bone health, for the joint health. So it's an amazing regenerative substance, and like I said, it really has that power to save lives. This is the actual farm that our deer antler comes from. Now, there's controversy about this product, especially in the raw food world. And we were always told that this product is harvested humanely. But we didn't believe that because we wanted to see it for ourselves. So one of the herbalists, John, who's at the booth, actually flew to New Zealand. And he observed the conditions, and that's the conditions that they actually are in for 364 days a year. The only time that they're brought in from the range is when they harvest the antler. And he observed the harvesting. And they do anesthetize them. The antler actually grows on what is known as a pedicle. It's like a little thing that sits on top of the skull, and it comes off of that. And they anesthetize the pedicle, and then they incise the antler. The animal does not feel pain. It's in velvet. Yes, it is. Yeah. Once it's bone, it doesn't really have any, benefit except for calcium. And then they're kept there for literally one day, and then they're back in the pasture again. So this is a very humanely harvested substance, and it is sustainable. It grows back every year. These are deer. Yeah. Okay, so Stragalus. This is probably one of the most incredible chi tonics there is. I'll actually pass this around if you want to take these and pass it around. This is what raw astragalus looks like. Okay. Now, remember I was talking about on a day-to-day basis, your body has to create energy from food and air. This herb enters the spleen, which is the spleen stomach, the digestive system, and the lungs. So the actual two organ systems that are in charge of the production of energy in your body are stimulated by this herb, astragalus. Now, there are a lot of other constituents in astragalus, but the most potent ones are astragalosides 1 through 4. And there's a lot of research that has been done on the astragaloside 4. Now, let me just say that in my company, I don't necessarily believe in taking one active ingredient from an herb and taking that out and extracting it and making it stronger and trying to make it into like a silver bullet. Because that's a very allopathic way of thinking. That's a very Western way of thinking, right? It's much more, for me, taking an herb and extracting all of its active ingredients. As a matter of fact, I think it was Deepak Chopra said that taking one element out of an herb and extracting it and giving it is like taking the intelligence but leaving behind the wisdom. And I think that's very true. That there are a lot of cofactors, even that astragaloside 4, which has proven to be pretty fantastic, because what it does is it actually maintains the length of the telomeres at the end of the DNA strands. What happens in cell replication is that you've got these little end telomeres, right, that are genetic material, and every time the cells divide, that gets a little bit shorter and a little bit shorter. And once it becomes too short, a couple of things could happen. The cells could divide, but they may start making mistakes. And they may start dividing unchecked. Or they may not divide properly, and you start to get malformation. And eventually they will die. And so astragaloside 4, which is a component of astragalus, actually helps to maintain the length of those telomeres so that when the cells divide, the telomeres don't shorten. That has a significant influence not only on the cell itself, but it has a significant influence on you, because that is a major longevity tonic. It's not only going to make the cell live longer, it'll help you live longer also. But what I was saying is that although that's an incredible aspect of that herb, there are probably 20 other substances that make up that herb that haven't really been researched that may be even more incredible than that. So for me, whole herb extracts are definitely the way to go. All right. And then this is my favorite herb in the whole world. This is the herb, this was the first herb that was given to me when I sat down at that tonic bar for the first time ever. And I experienced that it literally was a transformation. It literally was. I have been taking this herb for about 17 years now, every single day. This is part of my life. If you punctured a vein, reishi spores might actually come out instead of blood. It is a supreme Shen tonic. It is all about the heart. It's all about the spirit, calming, centering. Remember that anger that I was talking about that I had in my life? After taking this for a good amount of time, that didn't exist any longer. That didn't exist any longer. I don't know where it went, but I'm glad it's gone. And they do say that Reishi has the ability to transform negative energies or negative conditions into positive conditions. It does have that kind of transformation. The other thing is, it's a member of the medicinal mushroom family, and I'm sure you've all heard about, medicinal mushrooms. I mean, what they do for the immune system. Interestingly enough, mushrooms also share a lot of our DNA. I mean, a significant amount of our DNA. There's maybe 10% difference. I mean, it's a big difference. But nevertheless, one of the reasons why these mushrooms are so good for us is because they do have so much in common with us. And whatever attacks them, and they develop defenses against bacteria, against fungus, against viruses that would attack them in nature. And so we just get the benefit of what they've created in their own bodies so that we can benefit from it. Now this is an actual reishi mushroom, and if you notice and I'll pass this around too, you can feel this. This mushroom is it's like wood, okay? The exoskeleton of reishi is actually chitin. It's the same substance that lobster shells are made from, okay? Now the active ingredients in that herb are locked in those cells, okay? So, I mean, you could ground that herb up and you could make a decoction with it, but you probably wouldn't get all of the active ingredients that are actually in there. And the main ones that we are really glad that they have, polysaccharides, or you've heard of beta-glucans, okay? Beta-glucans are basically long-chain sugars, and those have the ability to stimulate the immune cells in the body, especially the T cells and the natural killer cells and the macrophages. So that's one thing. And then it has triterpenes in it. And triterpenes are the substances that actually help the reishi subdue an overactive immune system. And now here's the incredible thing. So that's a double direction, all right? If you have a weak immune system or a deficient immune system, it will actually bring up the immune response. But if you have an overactive immune system, like you have allergies and things like that, it'll suppress that. It will prevent the release of histamines. So it has a regulating effect, not just a stimulating effect on the immune system, okay? And again, reishi is another herb that is particularly good for lung energy, but for anybody who has like asthmatic conditions and things like that, and so is astragalus. Astragalus is incredible for strengthening lung chi, for really strengthening the function of the lungs. So those are just, again, those are 3 herbs, one from each category of the Jing, Qi, and Shen. And as I said before, there are about 122 more of those. And we can't get into all of the ingredients because that would take forever. Okay, so one of the things that we've done at Jing Herbs is we've created this the optimum health analysis, and if you look actually in the front cover of the schedule, of the program guide, right down at the bottom, it has jingherbsanalysis.com. Okay, so if you go to that, all right, you'll see pages like this. So it'll give you a refresher course, and this is something that you can do today if you've got your iPads with you or whenever it is that you want to get back to your home, okay? It'll give you a refresher about what I said about the Jing energy and what the function of that is, okay? And then you'll have these specific questions. Now, and these questions have been, they're given a weight, so depending on how you answer, it'll give it a different weight in the analysis part. For instance, do you experience slight shortness of breath? So that would probably tell us something about your lung function and your lung energy. It'll give us an indication of however you mention that, okay? Weakness of the voice, spontaneous sweating. One of the functions of the lung is to actually control perspiration and the opening and the closing of the pores of the skin. So if you have spontaneous sweating where you sweat, but you haven't really exerted yourself, okay, that would indicate to us that you actually have a lung qi deficiency. Hot flash. Okay. Yeah, that's not the lungs. Okay. Yeah, no, exactly. No, we have a lot of experience with hot flashes. Not me personally, thank God. But we do have a lot of, yeah, you should come to the booth. We can talk about that. And by the way, I know you may have a lot of questions, and I will be at the booth for the rest of the day, so by all means, bring your questions there if you want to. But anyway, so you go through this, and then at the end, it will give you a readout, okay? Now, so basically what you want to do is you're going to take a look at these. Now, we've done a lot more than Jing, Qi, and Shen. We've done blood and adaptability and female balance. So for your hot flashes, that's okay over there. You'll see that. And what you can do is, obviously, if you want to transform yourself, it's a good thing to have guides. It's a good thing to have people who have gone before you and have sort of gone through it. But in the absence of that, this is a really good way because it'll at least give you an indication of areas that you might want to take a look at. Okay? So what you would do is you would address the one that's the lowest, obviously. And if you've got any of those that are almost flatlining, then you better call us immediately. All right? But that's a pretty good thing. So, as I said, it's a good tool, and it'll also, the health analysis will also give you suggestions of formulas that you might want to start with. Now, as I said before, it is generalized, but it's better than guessing. Okay, and that's what we wanted to do. People come to the website and they look, and if you read through those formulas and through those herbs, you're going to want to take them all. And and we get calls like that all the time. I want everything, But this will help you narrow it down and give you a better understanding of, okay, this is where you might want to start, okay? Now, that's a good tool. But if there are any of you here who really want to take this further, okay, then we have this. We have the Ultimate Vitality Gold Package. So if you are, or if you are working with someone who needs to increase day-to-day energy, if you think you might want less stress and a little bit better sleep, which is in our society, I mean, I would say 85% of our clients are dealing with these two issues in their lives, stress and sleep. And I don't think that the environment or our society in general allows us to get away from stress, because terrible, tragic things are always in our face that cause us to feel unsafe, and that can cause a lot of stress. And the thing about stress is, once your brain sends the signal, okay, there's no getting away from it. All right. It was different in the old days when you have cavemen who were being chased by a bear, and it was appropriate for them to have a stress response, because it was either run or they were going to die. So that's where that fight or flight syndrome comes in. But in our society today, we are creating a lot of those fight or flight responses just by our thought processes. Remember, I was telling you, it works both ways. You can have a positive thought or you can have a negative thought. And your negative thoughts have physiological consequences in your body. Okay? You could be in a stressful mode 24/7 if that's the way you're thinking. One of the things that we can help you do is to stop that. Recharge your health and well-being, and this includes access to a qualified herbalist. And as I said before, it's not a bad thing to have guides. It's not a bad thing to have people who have basically dealt with conditions over and over and over and over again, and sort of can recognize it a little bit faster. Okay. So what this will do is it will, other than, and I said the optimum health analysis is really good. That's a good place to start if that's what you want to do. But this program will address your specific lifestyle needs. So, we get to know who you are and go from there specifically. Okay. If you have any specific health challenges, in other words, you're not in the tonic area, you might be in the harmonizing area, or you might be even in the disease area, okay? If you have any of those, then those need to be addressed first. Right? One of the other things that a lot of people have a problem with is they start something and they start feeling better, but for some reason they don't continue with it. And they stop. And then they'll start again and they'll stop. If you really want to have profound transformation in your life, it sort of becomes a daily thing. It sort of becomes a daily thing. I mean, when I started with herbalism, I might have been also in that start or stop mode. But what I found was when I started to become consistent with it, then my life really totally changed and has never gone back again. So this is a really important thing. It'll also help you feel confident in the fact that you don't necessarily have to make all the decisions, but that there's someone else that's helping you with it. Okay? And then you're going to have continuing access to us. Okay? Now, so you're going to get a $500 herbal credit. You're going to have a half-hour consultation with an herbalist. Two of the herbalists are actually at the booth. John and Elizabeth are here, and they'll be two of the people you'll be talking to. We get literally hundreds of emails a day that we have to answer. In this program, you have an email that goes directly to one of us personally, so that you get answered a lot faster. I unfortunately, sometimes it takes me a month to get through the emails that I have to answer, all right? It's just the nature of the beast. This will actually give you direct access to it. You also get the DVD, How to Create Your Own Tonic Bar, and this is really great because this is where I was introduced to herbalism, but this is a fun thing to do. This is a fun thing to do if you have a family. You can have a tonic bar in your own home, or if you really want to get into it, you can open up a tonic bar and serve your community. And it's a great thing to do. The other DVD is actually one where it's an interview, and we talk about the three treasures again. Okay, so you get a much deeper, explanation of what I was talking about before. Okay, and then you get free shipping of all the products. And there it is. It's $4.97, and this is a 3-month program. So we are with you, or we may be on your backs for 3 months to make sure that you're getting the benefit of this. So this is probably a time when I was faced with a lot of decisions, and you have to make decisions in your life. You have to make decisions about whether something is worth your time, whether it's worth your money. And if you are not worth doing something like this, I mean, I know people who, spend $200,000 on a car. I mean, it's a vehicle, but what about this vehicle? What about this vehicle that has to basically get you through your whole life? And you have to think about, okay, what is that worth? So, as I said before, I will be here for the rest of the afternoon in the booth. The herbalists are there. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to stop by. And thank you so much for allowing me to be here. All right, be well.